Real quick poll, show of hands down in the comment section. How many of you out there have heard about this new law that's coming in the next couple of years here in America called the kill switch law, where all new vehicles produced are going to be required to have some form of AI recognition software that has a camera facing the driver and can tell if the driver is distracted using their phone. Sensors will be put in that detect your breath to see if you've been drinking at all. All of these things giving the AI the ability to stop your car completely or slow it down immensely. How many of you have heard about this? You see, this is the final nail in the coffin. Nobody's talking about it because everybody's talking about, did Trump do this? Did Trump do that? Did Trump do the other? And nobody cares about what's really going on. They have found a way to use the guy as a complete distraction so that they could put in this type of thing. Now, we're going to get a lot farther into that, but it boils down to something that happened many, many hundreds of years ago. It's an ultimate expression of narcissism, and a lot of people probably don't understand what this has to do with the revolution, but it boils right down to a group of people who found themselves in a position to do whatever the hell they wanted, whenever the hell they wanted to do it, and if anybody tried to impose any kind of law or restriction, they fought back with violence. Now, real quick, before we get into that, God bless all of you. Thank you so much who have continued to join us, Florida Monkey Patreon channel. Very much appreciate it. Great day to join. First of the month, May 1st. That way you get the whole thing. Got a brand new video coming up, working on, that's going to be talking about how we got there, how we got to the point where people are going to say, oh, it's going to stop drunk drivers and stop distracted drivers and save lives. No, it's not going to. It's going to cause massive traffic snarls and probably some accidents. Lots of them. Because it's going to be a giant debacle. Because we know that things like this are simply not meant to save people's lives. They're meant to control people. Now, if you'd like to join us over there, 4 different levels, whatever God puts on your heart. Best part is, if you join, you go look at the videos, they're not for you, no problem. You have 90 days. Today's the beginning of May, so I got May, June, all of July. May, June, all of July. Be the 1st of August before you would have to really make a decision and risk losing any money. So, God bless all of you who have stood in the breach. You're the reason that I'm still able to do videos at all, whether or here or on Patreon. So let's get right to it. What do the Founding Fathers have to do with the idea of the current iteration of the U.S. government being in full control? Well, there's a big myth about the Founding Fathers and the people that fought for this country. You see, they had a problem with the particular British king at the time. They believed their rights as British citizens had been violated by that king. They didn't have a problem with the concept of a king. You see, that little myth got written in later because George Washington himself was great friends with the King of France. Wrote back and forth, and never once was there any discussion of the whole idea of royalty has to go away. It doesn't happen. It was a specific king at a specific time, and what these men were fighting over was money. Isn't the story, oh, it's all about taxation without representation, taxation, they're taking our money, blah, blah, blah. Well, let me read you something real quick. Now, I don't normally do this, but I want to share this because the idea of government control goes hand in hand with this book called 1984 from George Orwell. But Aldous Huxley wrote a book along the same lines, but had a very different take. And it seems to be a great deal more accurate. 4 months after George Orwell published 1984, his former teacher, Aldous Huxley, sent him a letter saying that he had described the wrong dystopia. Two of the great dystopian minds of the 20th century clashed over how we would ultimately lose our freedom. In Orwell's vision, the state controls through fear. Surveillance cameras in every room, thought police hunting dissent, history rewritten daily to match whoever holds power. A branch of government called the Ministry of Truth exists to manufacture lies. Its enforcer O'Brien describes the endgame plainly, quote, a boot stamping on a human face forever. In Huxley's Brave New World, however, there is no boot. Citizens are genetically conditioned before birth, slotted into castes. By design, a drug called Soma eliminates discomfort on demand. Entertainment is infinite and shallow. Every desire is immediately satisfied. No one burns books, No one needs to. The desire to read them has already been engineered away. Freedom is surrendered voluntarily, cheerfully, in exchange for comfort. This is along the lines of Juvenal from, Bread and Circuses. October 21, 1949, after World War II, Huxley writes from Wrightwood, California. He tells Orwell, "The boot on the face model is unstable. Violence creates friction. Friction creates martyrs. Martyrs create resistance. It's too costly to sustain forever. The smarter path, make the cage comfortable enough that no one looks for the door." Now, here's where you got to pay attention. Make the cage comfortable enough that no one looks for the door. His prediction, written 77 years ago, the lust for power, can be just as completely satisfied by suggesting people into loving their servitude as by flogging and kicking them into obedience. Before writing Brave New World, Huxley had spent 2 years as Orwell's French teacher at Eton in 1917 when Orwell was a teenager named Eric Blair. The letter was not an abstract debate between strangers. It was a teacher telling his former student, "I've been watching the same forces you have. We drew different conclusions, and I think mine will prove correct." And here's the key. Here's where it all boils down. Why did Aldous Huxley think pleasure would win over pain as a control mechanism? Now, the Bible tells us this. Because pain is palpable. A population that knows it's oppressed can name its oppressor, organize against it, and fight back. The history of every revolution runs on that logic. Pleasure is different, however. A population that is comfortable has no grievance to organize around. The cage doesn't need guards if the prisoner has stopped looking for the door. Rational rulers eventually discover that a happy slave is cheaper than a frightened one. Both visions exist today in different countries. And it talks about how China and North Korea and places like Iran do things the first way. And in Western worlds, we do things the second way. And they talk about opioids, antidepressants, all sorts of mind-altering drugs that are now being legalized. You see, which dystopia are you living in? Now, I want you to keep all that in mind. When you think about all of these settlers, all of the original people that led to the founding fathers of this country coming to this new land, far larger than England, Spain, and France combined. Forests full of timber as far as the eye can see, totally free. Completely free. All you had to do was go bring the axe, chop it down, and either ship it off for profit or build whatever you wanted out of it. Clear as much land as you want. There were some natives, but they were easily scared off. There were rivers and streams larger than they had ever seen or conceived of, completely full of fish, horizon to horizon. That's what they found when they came to the New World. This temperate climate where everything grows, herds of wild game, bison and deer and all sorts of rabbit and raccoon and bee and pelts that you could just literally just go pick them up. Imagine the wealth. And if the adventure got too serious for you, you could always run back to the British protected and British controlled cities. Charleston all the way to Boston. So what does that boil down to? Just getting on the ships, taking your stuff and going? That's all you needed. It was just that easy. And yet you were complaining. And yet they were complaining. The people who founded this country were cannabis growing, whiskey drinking, tax evading domestic terrorists who shot at cops and tar and feathered lawmakers and tax collectors who they perceived to be getting out of line. They literally had an entire country larger than any they had ever known, full of resources that they could just take. And they were complaining about taxes. Oh, and by the way, it was a complete free-for-all when it came to the vices of society here. There were no, the security forces that the British were providing weren't policing things like prostitution. So you could drink yourself silly, you could smoke yourself stupid, you could, as much money as you wanted to amass, you could blow it all on you know what. But you see, that's the key. There's an old song. She likes adventure with security and more than one can provide. She planned adventure, feeling sure that he would not be home till after 5. Now that's an old Sawyer Brown song called All These Years, and it's about a man who catches his wife cheating. And when they get down to the whys and wherefores, it didn't really matter. It didn't really matter. You see, they talk about in the last days the great harlot, the great spirit of Jezebel coming to the world. And that's what this is. This country was founded on the spirit of Jezebel, wanting the security and the protection provided, of course, by the British government, the man, but still wanting to go play. Still wanting to go out and seek adventure. This is from, of course, the video Whiskey Lullaby. We all have seen that and know what that's all about. And how easy it is to just encounter something that seems intoxicating and have it lead us to make decisions that are just beyond what we thought we would. So that's how we got here. The British, had it right in retreating because they were dealing with a nation full of lawless drunkards and criminals and thugs. You can't win a war against people like that who refuse to even value the idea of governance, of right self-governance. That's why they left, and it wasn't very long. 1776, it was over. It took 13 years for the colonies to establish a constitution from the time they won the war. And by 1812, it was all over. The War of 1812 pretty much put a kibosh on any of that nonsense. And it wasn't very long. It was only, 48 years after that this country was tearing itself apart in the War of Northern Aggression? And then all of a sudden we had the Industrial Revolution where big money came in. And then what happened? Oh, that's right. We had the flapper girls and speakeasies, and then World War. And then another World War. And then another war in Asia. See, there's a story that people don't want to tell. There's a story that people don't want to tell, and it goes all the way back to what Huxley and Orwell described. That man will always have this vain attempt to control himself through his own government. And that's what they missed on this. You see, they wanted to make you believe there was the common, regular, good people, and then there was these others. There's no these others. It's us. This is biblical. Man has no ability to control himself, and every time he tries, it turns out like this. It turns out like what we're facing right now. Oh, there's going to be rebels. There's going to be people that fight back. But imagine now the context of people who refuse to pay taxes, people who, when the IRS came to the door, started taking up weapons and started shooting and killing people. Imagine that in the modern day context, especially people who were getting things for free. It was all for free. What a lot of people don't understand about the Boston Tea Party was that the people that dressed up as Native Americans went and dumped all that tea in the harbor were only protesting the fact that the taxes being levied on that tea were going to the British government, even though it was the British East India Trading Company ships that were hauling the tea. You see, they didn't have a problem with the taxes. They had a problem with where the taxes were going. They wanted the taxes to stay here in America to support the American government, which was all and wholly financed and set up by the British government. These weren't the good guys. I'm sorry, but they weren't. This country would be a lot better off if we stayed under British rule. In the next 20 to 25 years, mark my words, these are things like this, the King of England would have never even thought to do to try to control people. The biggest knock on the King of England during the Revolution was that they were passing laws that allowed for taxation of people who were literally living for free, to the point that they were actually destroying the British and Western European economy. And that actually happened. That actually happened right after World War II. It wasn't very long. It took about 100 years. This kill switch, where the government can control your car based on your behavior, this goes all the way back to the Revolution. Because now the government that finally came from this is far worse than the British government ever was. I'd say far worse than the German government ever was. I don't even think Pharaoh was this bad, nor Julius Caesar, with what the U.S. government requires today versus then. Taxation without representation? You can't do anything today in America without being taxed on it. Think about it. And are you truly represented in this taxation? No. You're not represented. Oh, they have these fake fraudulent elections all the time. Based on two parties, you get choice A or choice B. You don't actually get to choose who you really want. So these guys, sorry, we'd be better off under a king. I'm just going to leave it there. God bless. Thank you, all of you who have continued to join us at Patreon. Very much appreciate it. You are standing in the breach. Pray for each other. Pray for me. I'll pray for you. Lift each other up. Like, share, subscribe. I'll see you guys next time.